Welcome to Smart Stock Trading, the channel where we explore the technologies and trends shaping our world. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects literally everything in our modern lives: critical minerals. Back in 2010, something happened that sent shockwaves through the global economy. China suddenly cut off rare earth exports to Japan, and it was like the world collectively realized we might have a problem. Rare earths, of course, are the minerals we need for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles. That incident was just the beginning. Today, we're looking at how Europe is completely transforming its approach to these critical minerals. The European Union has set some pretty ambitious goals that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. They're aiming to extract 10% and process 40% of their critical mineral needs by 2030. This is a complete revolution in how Europe thinks about resource independence. It sounds like quite a challenge, and there's definitely a story behind how they plan to pull this off. We'll take you through Europe's mineral moonshot, the green tech boom driving demand, and some fascinating innovations that could change everything. Let me take you back to that pivotal moment in 2010. Picture this. Japanese manufacturers suddenly found themselves cut off from materials they desperately needed for everything from hybrid cars to wind turbines. China had spent decades building up their rare earth industry, and by 2010, they controlled about 97% of global production. They essentially had their hand on the world's technological tap. When they restricted exports to Japan, prices went absolutely wild. Some rare earth elements shot up by more than 2,000%. European manufacturers watched in horror as they realized just how vulnerable they were. This was a cold splash of water to the face. Initially, many thought it was just a temporary problem. But then something bigger started to sink in. This wasn't just about rare earths or Japan. This was about the future of European industry. European leaders started looking at their green energy goals, their digital transformation plans, their defense industry, and realized almost everything depended on these materials. The more Europe pushed toward a high-tech green future, the more dependent they were becoming on these critical minerals. The 2010 crisis just made that painfully obvious. So what were the first steps Europe took to address this? Initially, it was mostly about stockpiling and trying to diversify suppliers. But that crisis planted the seeds for something much bigger. European leaders started asking tough questions. Why had they let their domestic capabilities disappear? How could they rebuild them? What would it take to secure their supply chains? You know what's fascinating about Europe's response? They didn't just create another policy document. They launched what some are calling their mineral moonshot, the Critical Raw Materials Act. What makes it so different from previous attempts to address this issue? For the first time, Europe set really concrete targets. And when I say concrete, I mean specific numbers, deadlines, and most importantly, funding. They've actually selected 47 strategic projects focused on everything from mining to recycling. These are incredibly diverse. Some focus on extracting lithium from geothermal waters in Germany. Others are developing new processing facilities in Finland. There's even a fascinating project in France working on recycling rare earths from old wind turbines. They've realized that just having mines isn't enough. You need the entire value chain. The act isn't just throwing money at the problem. They're creating what they call strategic projects. These are initiatives that get special treatment, faster permits, access to funding, and priority status. This is creating what they call circular economy hubs. Some of these projects are getting really creative. There's one in Sweden that's extracting rare earths from mine waste that's been sitting around for decades. Another in Belgium is recovering critical minerals from old electronics with accuracy that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. So they're literally mining their own trash? In a way, yes. And it's brilliant because Europe might not have huge mineral deposits like some other regions, but it has mountains of old electronics and industrial waste. It's like finding treasure in your attic. You know what's driving all this urgency around critical minerals? The International Energy Agency just released some numbers that are pretty eye-opening about where we're headed with green technology. Take copper, for example. A single offshore wind turbine needs about 8 tons of copper. Now multiply that by the thousands of turbines Europe wants to build by 2030. And here's what's fascinating. It's not just wind turbines. An average electric vehicle needs about 6 times more minerals than a conventional car. The IEA projects that demand for lithium alone could increase by up to 40 times by 2040. And nickel demand could increase by up to 25 times. Copper demand could double. These aren't just big numbers. They're transformative numbers that are reshaping entire markets. Different green technologies need different combinations of minerals. Solar panels have their own mineral fingerprint that's completely different from batteries or wind turbines. So you can't just focus on one or two minerals. You need the whole spectrum. And here's what's really keeping people in the industry on their toes. The technology keeps evolving. Someone invents a new type of battery or a more efficient solar panel, and suddenly the demand patterns shift. But Europe's actually turning this challenge into an opportunity. They're developing what they call strategic foresight capabilities, basically trying to anticipate these technological shifts and adapt their mineral strategy accordingly. There are teams developing motors for electric vehicles that don't need rare earth magnets. Others are finding ways to make solar panels with more common materials. But even with these innovations, we're still looking at massive increases in demand. The IEA's latest projections show that even with all these efficiency improvements and material substitutions, we're still facing what they call a mineral-intensive future. Here's what makes it even more challenging. It takes an average of 16 years to get a new mine up and running in Europe. But we need these minerals now. That's why there's such a push for recycling and processing innovation. Europe literally can't wait for traditional mining development cycles. They need to find ways to do things faster and smarter. That explains why they're throwing so much support behind these strategic projects and looking at every possible source, from urban mining to deep-sea exploration. The green technology revolution is reshaping not just how we produce energy, but how we think about resources entirely. Europe's approach is fascinating. While everyone else is focused on just getting minerals out of the ground, Europe's building what they call smart mining, completely reimagining how we extract and use these materials. You know what's really interesting about Europe's mineral strategy? They've realized they can't go it alone. That's where the Minerals Security Partnership comes in. It's like a mineral NATO, bringing together some of the world's most advanced economies. You've got the usual suspects, the United States, Canada, Australia. But what's fascinating is how Europe has positioned itself within this group. They're not just another partner. They're actually helping shape the entire framework of cooperation. This partnership acts as a mineral diplomacy network. These countries share intelligence about supply chains, coordinate investment strategies, and even pool resources for joint projects. But here's what makes it really unique. They're also sharing technology and expertise. They're developing common standards for everything from environmental protection to labor practices, creating what they call responsible supply chains. You know what fascinates me most about Europe's critical minerals journey? It's not just about securing resources. It's about reimagining our entire relationship with these materials. It's pretty remarkable how far they've come since that wake-up call in 2010. What we're seeing now is this amazing convergence of innovation, sustainability, and strategic thinking. The Critical Raw Materials Act isn't just a policy. It's Europe saying we need to fundamentally change how we source and use these essential materials. Europe is showing that you can pursue mineral independence while actually raising environmental standards. They're proving that the green technology revolution doesn't have to come at the expense of the planet. It's like they're writing a new playbook for the whole world. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, share this video with fellow investors who might benefit, and definitely subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses and market insights. We eagerly await your comments below. Let us know your thoughts and what topics you'd love for us to explore next.